Welcome to the Dirty Side of Leadership podcast with Ron and Kristin, where leadership meets entertainment. This podcast features stories with names and certain aspects that have been changed to keep submissions private. Enjoy the show.
Welcome back to another episode of the Dirty Side of Leadership podcast, where leadership meets entertainment. I'm Ron, and as always, I'm joined with my insightful, wonderful co-host, Kristin. Kristin, how you doing today?
Doing well. How did you like doing the intro?
You know, Kristin switched that up on me, everybody, and I was really struggling because I'm used to writing my introduction, which is filled with adjectives, superlatives, and other things. So, it was different.
I know. It's different for me. I'm sitting here smiling because I'm like, wow, this is so foreign. I love it. It's good to keep you on your toes.
You're not going to say, wait a minute, you're not going to say, be the leader you're meant to be at the end, are you?
Oh, you know what? I might
Kristin.
just full 180 on you.
Don't do it.
Oh, you really won't know what to do with yourself then.
I know.
So I can't wait to get into today's topic. So seize the moment. I think it's a great opportunity for us to bring this full circle. So we're talking about post-election strategies. And Ron, I'm sure you saw some of the crazy things that people are doing after President Donald Trump was declared the 47th president-elect of the United States. Wow, the internet is exploding.
Oh, I saw it. I saw the women shaving their heads. Apparently, they're trying to make themselves look unattractive, which I don't think they needed to do that to get there, but it's another story. And they were, one was screaming F the patriarchy.
Oh my gosh.
And, but this was my favorite. One guy said he was leaving the United States and he's moving to Hawaii.
Oh my gosh, what an idiot. I mean, that's about right. That's like the perfect depiction of what we have going on here and the mentality. You know, it's wild because, you know, I live in the state of Oregon and the entire West Coast. Abortion is legal in all, you know, Washington, Oregon, California, right? And these are the women really like leading the charge. And it's so interesting. I'm like, do you realize it's legal in the state you reside in? Like, why are you? Because the whole thing with shaving your head is making yourself unattractive to men, because if you get pregnant, you don't have the ability to have an abortion, right? Like that's the whole thing, is it's all abortion based. So they're like, we're going to have a dry 4 years, which means they're not going to have sex with men for 4 years, right? So it's really interesting. I think they forget that the state that they live in is the ultimate deciding factor there. I found that quite interesting. You know, while those people are sulking, Ron, you and I, we thought it would be a great idea to help motivate, seize the moment. It was really interesting. I was the day after the election, so Wednesday, my mom, my sister, and I, and my kids, we decided we're going to go grab coffee and go shopping a little bit, right? And so it was really interesting, the energy or lack thereof in the air. It was mostly women. Of course, we're here in the Pacific Northwest, so it was interesting. You know, I generally am a nice person, and so if someone's like right next to me, I'll engage them. I even told a lady she had a cute vest, and she didn't even respond. And it was just like, okay, I know what's going on here. Like we've got some real mental health crisis here. I don't know about you out there.
Oh, wow. Well, I'm in the South. So a lot of the people that I've talked to were pretty elated. As a matter of fact, I played basketball yesterday, and I'm still recuperating, Kristin. It was full court.
Oh, dang.
But that's another story.
That's impressive.
But during a period of time, it was like 3-on-3. So it was me and two black guys. And we got along well because I've played basketball my whole life. So that's one of my absolute favorite things to do. So after it was over, I was kind of curious. So sure enough, it came up, the election results. And guess what? They were pretty pleased.
Nice.
They felt that we were going to enter a time of prosperity. And that's what I was inviting them to the conference, our conference, Kristin, December 5th.
Oh, nice. Yes.
In Summerville, South Carolina. I didn't mention that, but that's what I was inviting them. And then they started talking about one guy was starting his own business, and that led to politics. And they were very hopeful. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
The point is, Kristin, my biggest pet peeve probably in the world is people who victimize themselves.
Yes.
No matter what the context. And I would be a little more tolerant if Trump hadn't already been president. And I know that I prospered more in those 4 years than I ever have, to be honest with you. And I'm just talking about me. You can look at the stats. You can look at the unemployment rate. And by the way, Kristin, I mentioned this once before, but people don't understand this. I provided documentation stats for the criminal reform bill or the crime reform bill. I actually provided stats for that. And there were more African-American males that got released from prison than any time in history, and that was led by Donald J. Trump. And even when I was teaching college, when I would say that, because we had to study things.
Yeah.
The prison reform bill. I kept using the wrong term there. But anyway, it was amazing to me, but the students had no idea. And it's like that was kept from everyone.
Right.
But having said that, we know that there's all that misinformation. The bottom line is you can either sulk or you can get a plan to prosper. You can have a fixed mindset, a growth mindset. You got to decide what you're going to do. So I'm certainly not going to sit around and pout. And this is what I would say to our listeners. While those people are sulking, that just gives you more opportunity to prosper. So there's a term. I did a post on this, Kristin, announcing that you and I were going to do this podcast. And someone sent me this. It's a Carpe diem. And that literally means seize the moment, the Latin phrase. And that's exactly what we need to do in this moment.
I love it. No, you're spot on. I forgot to mention that when we were at the coffee shop, when I went shopping the day after the election, I ran into an ex-boyfriend that I hadn't
seen. Are you
seen.
kidding me?
I'm 100% serious.
If there's
and it's
one
so
theme,
crazy. I hadn't seen him in 20 years.
I'm letting it go.
And it's funny though, because he's a small business owner now. And he was talking about how excited he is because he said it's been tough over mainly the past 2-3 years. That business has been slower, and he was looking at the upside, like I have more time with my wife and kids, right? But he is looking forward to these next 4 years. And so it just really shows you, even though I just thought it was hysterical, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's that guy I was dating, like right before I went to New York and met Dave, and then had to, cut that one off. But kind of wild timing, but there you go. Small business owner, really pumped up about what's going to happen with growth over these next 4 years. So we need to look at the upside. And, we want to talk about the characteristics of both a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. And I'll cover the fixed mindset. And then Ron, I know you love to go into the growth mindset. So let's see here. Let's just talk a little bit more about the fixed mindset. So you're avoiding challenges. You're going to refuse to receive criticism or feedback. I have experienced that so much as a leader. What's it been like for you? Of course, I'm coming from a private sector. You have the public sector. What was it like when you gave folks, not everyone, but feedback and they responded negatively?
Yeah, and certainly it happened to me. And that's one of the things in my trainings that I do is I help people provide corrective feedback. And we call it making uncomfortable conversations comfortable. But absolutely, if you get someone with a fixed mindset, they have decided not to grow. And the only way we do grow is, the Bible talks about iron sharpening iron. And you got to have other perspectives and to challenge you. And you have to do some introspection, reflect on that, and grow where necessary. So, of course, I had it happen.
What do you think the real reason is that people are like that? Do you think it's fear? I mean, that's what I think about first. But what's this true, closed mindset where they don't want feedback or they take it very personally?
Yeah, Kristin, that's an age-old question because some people call it childhood programming. They bring anger or insecurities. Maybe insecurities will show up as jealousy many times. So they might be jealous of a coworker or even their manager. So there is a lot to unpack when you talk about people who refuse criticism. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't love it. I've had people, there's been times my pride has been in the way, and I can remember being younger and getting some feedback that I really needed and I didn't like it. So there's a pride element to it. And as we grow, isn't it interesting, as you grow and mature, you don't worry so much about your pride. You worry more about the destination. But I think younger people, they look at the journey all the time, the moment. So that's the best I can
Yeah.
come up with, but
Yeah.
it's always been there, and it's probably always
I
going to
know it's
remain.
not going to go away. It's so interesting. That is a tough one to deal with as a leader. You know, they're also generally that fixed mindset. They're focused on proving themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that also can go back to those insecurities, right? When you don't know where you stand, you're working so hard to prove yourself and have a better understanding of where you're at. And you know, they're going to feel threatened by others' success. You briefly just touched on that. That's something I've definitely experienced. And I know as a new manager, when I was a little slightly insecure in my managerial abilities, right? I would look at people and I would, you know, assume they're brown nosers, right? The ones that the bosses always spoke really highly of. But there was a time where I really got to know one of these folks that was very highly regarded by all my leadership team, and we became great friends actually. And I did find so many great things just by spending time with her. I learned so much. And so when we feel threatened by others' success, I definitely think we need to look within and understand why we are feeling that way. Generally, it's an insecurity. Um, there's, you know, this ties into refusing or someone who's really difficult to give feedback to. They can't accept failures or mistakes. I mean, that's a tough one, because the first thing I shared this on a few episodes ago where I made a mistake in my communication with my class of 8th graders, and some of them did the report differently, and it was because I had provided them like a FAQ, and it for some of them it sent them in the wrong direction. And I was like, I am so sorry. I could totally see how handing you guys this FAQ that was intended to help totally sent you in the wrong direction with this, you know, the structure of the report. And one of my students said, "That is very gracious of you to say." And I thought, man,
Wow.
it's so important that we can own our mistakes, even when they weren't intentional, right?
But
Do you have
also to
any
use the
stories
word,
on that?
to use the word gracious, you can tell
Mm.
it's a homeschool, private school situation.
Yeah, and
Who
yeah,
uses a word
Christian.
like that at that age?
I know, but it touched my heart when he said that, because I just felt like and I even took the time to say to the class, like, it's really important in leadership. If you become leaders, which you probably will, or when you work for somebody, it's important that whoever makes the mistake owns it. And if that's you, great. And you should expect that of your leadership team as well. And so that was a good learning moment. But you know, a lot of these fixed mindset folks they're going to shy away from unfamiliar things. And that goes up to avoiding challenges. And they also are going to believe that talent is static. So there's just so much. None of these are a positive. So, but a lot of people have these, right? Like, we're going to see this. I could, you know, we each could say we probably have one of these underlying. So we want
Yeah.
to focus on growth mindset.
Yeah,
And
of
that's
course we
something
do.
that goes forever.
Yeah, that's right. You know, just to add a little bit on the fixed mindset, this is the kind of phrases you will hear. Well, I'm the kind of person, if it isn't
Mm.
this way, I'm not doing it.
Mm-hmm.
They'll start sentences like that. If I'm the kind of person, or it's just the way I am, that's just the way it is. And you will
Yeah.
hear those kind of statements over and over. They're not open to growth.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I don't mean this badly. I hope everyone listening to us has a growth mindset. But I told my daughter, you know, she's going into the workforce with her new degree. I'm like, if you just show up, have a good attitude, you're already going to be way above 80% of the
Seriously.
people. So while these people are sulking, we're going to prosper. All right,
Yeah.
we're going to look at growth mindset. And I'll flip back to you some here, Kristin. By the way, Kristin and I are using stuff that is from the Forward Operations Training Program, and we go
Mm-hmm.
into this, and it's amazing that some of the exercises that we do, there's people that are fixed and didn't realize that they
Mm-hmm.
had a fixed mindset.
Right,
So
right.
that's always interesting. I didn't mean to say fixed. That sounded like a dog. But anyway.
Oh my gosh. It's true though.
Okay, so people with the growth mindset, they view challenges as opportunities. It's easier said than done, but that is
Mm-hmm.
that mindset. And I love people. I don't know if you've been around someone, Kristin, that has a really high IQ. They look at opportunities all the time. Even my daughter on financial stuff, I don't like it. So we had to develop this Excel spreadsheet. And I'm thinking it was a little complex, and I'm thinking she might panic a little, but that's what she does. She was like, no, this isn't that bad. We'll knock it out.
Nice.
Boom.
I love it. Yeah.
They embrace feedback, constructive feedback in particular. They focus on the process, not the end result. This is my problem, Kristin. I've had to really focus on this because I am so end result kind of person. I'm looking at that end result, and sometimes I don't appreciate the process enough, but the process is where we learn and grow.
Right.
Once you've arrived, once you're across the finish line, you're not out there exercising to get in shape. You've crossed the finish line. So I am having to, and preparing for this conference has been such a challenge, and I've had to remind myself that I need to focus on the process, and I'm learning and I'm growing. I've made mistakes. I got to move on.
Right.
Thoughts
that's
on
huge. Being able to admit that in the first place is big, right? And I think it is important because we've all set out to do something, and maybe we didn't get the end result that we expected, but to your point, we learned throughout that journey.
Yeah.
And that piece is so huge, even more powerful than the end result in some circumstances. So I love that.
Yeah. We learn and grow from failures. There's people with a growth mindset. They always step out of their comfort zone. And I've said many times before that comfort can be the enemy. Right. I don't mean you don't get a little comfort, but if you're going to do something major, you got to step outside of your comfort zone. I thought about when Elon Musk, they landed that rocket, in the arms. Can you imagine the pressure on him? Because there were tons of people said that could not be done. And he had failed before. So you're sitting there with millions and millions of dollars invested. You've got naysayers. And can you imagine the relief when that rocket came down and caught it? It was like a recyclable rocket.
I've watched the video of his response. It was like epic.
Yeah, no kidding. And that's something that had never entered my mind, that you could recycle a rocket. Like that never entered my mind.
Seriously.
So that was a great moment.
Yeah. Talk about embracing failure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and then finally, if you have a growth mindset, you believe that talent is evolving. It's fluid, and you can always build on your talent.
I'm triggered by the word fluid, by the way, living in the Northwest.
Okay. We'll just say it's ever improving for Kristin. Your mindset is ever improving.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, no, it's incredible. It's funny. I look back and I think, wow, I definitely used to have a bit of a fixed mindset, even just when it comes to working a 9 to 5. That was pretty comfortable, right? Like there were challenges day to day, but it's really interesting now that I'm out of that world. I seek that fire in my belly more than ever before. Like I get like not bored, but I'm always looking to improve every year. Like, what do I want to achieve this year? Right? Like it's like stepping stones. Like I've done X, Y, Z. What's the next thing that's just going to make me that much more diversified? So I think that's an awesome way to look at it.
Kristin, a moment of vulnerability. I was doing fine with my company, speaking, training, coaching. And then all of a sudden I started expanding, and I created some hiccups for myself. And I got angry. I'm like, why did you expand? Why didn't you?
You're doing fine. I don't need this.
I don't need this. That is the thought I had. I really don't. Yep. And finally, I had to realize, like, that's my DNA. God made me this way. And that's why I'm expanding, because I love to see other people succeed, and I like to create opportunities for them. So when I seriously just said, that's who I am, it was like the weight of the world lifted.
Yes.
So now I just embrace it. I'm going to keep moving forward, and, we'll see where we are from there. Right. Folks, we hope you are getting motivated. We're going to add just a little bit more. We're going to put this in practical terms, because everything that Kristin and I just said is kind of Huey level stuff. Everyone can say, don't have a bad attitude, have a good attitude.
Yeah.
And I've heard that before, but when you're in the middle of the storm, that's hard to do. So we want to give you just a little bit more, because we believe that opportunities are coming your way, and you got to be ready. Get us going, Kristin. Give us a little more.
Yeah. Well, and I'll touch on something first because, yes, we have Donald Trump back in office and one side is very happy and one side is very upset, right? And I have to think back on the past 4 years where I personally was very upset with what was happening in our great country. But did that stop me? No, that's actually when I achieved the most growth. The past 4 years have been an uphill battle, but it's been a battle that's been necessary for me to grow and develop not only myself as an individual, but my relationship with God, my brand, my relationship with my children, my husband, right? It's been an incredible opportunity to really hone what's important. And I've had to put a lot of trust in God and what do you have in store for me? And I think that's something that a lot of us need to do. Ask God for guidance. We believe that God works in the lives of his followers. And man, once, like to your point, Ron, once you really understand that's who I am, this is how I'm made, this is how my creator made me. Wow, it's such a liberating experience.
I've said this before, Kristin. We look up topics. We do the research so you don't have to, but there's a lot of our own personality and thoughts that go into this. So, Kristin, I will tell you, when I was researching this, that was not in anywhere that I researched asking for God's guidance. So I think that's one of the reasons our podcast is unique, is that it's holistic. And we do believe there's a creator. We do believe you have a divine purpose. And I just don't understand what keeps atheists going. I don't get it. So anyway, I'm glad you brought that up. That very important.
Hard. Yeah, absolutely.
So now that we have acknowledged God, we do need to embrace our inner power. And one of the things I do in executive coaching is I teach people to be powerful, to be present, to be deliberate. That comes through from eye contact to body language to word choice. We can be very powerful. And when you believe that, you create opportunities on your own. In other words, we're not sitting around waiting on someone to rescue us.
Right.
And Kristin, even the government, we know that Trump is a businessman and it's probably going to bring prosperity, but the government's not my God. Donald Trump's not my God. But I do know there will be opportunities that I'm going to take advantage of. So if you're still hanging with us, start preparing yourself now. And ask yourself, what are my talents? Do I have a special knowledge or interest? I've noticed that things that you're interested in are many times that is actually your calling. You've got this keen interest in, decorating or cooking or something, and then that's actually your calling. It's drawing you in. You will have that interest and it will pull you in. So start preparing yourself.
Own it. Yeah, absolutely. And, you want to go after your goals. This is the time, even when you're afraid, anyone who does something great, they had to overcome many obstacles. I think that social media has made that very difficult to understand because, I'm not going to go put this horrible picture of me with eye bags and a double chin, right? Like I'm going to pick a flattering picture of myself to post on Instagram, putting my best face forward on Instagram, right? What that does, though, for many, especially youth right now, is they think that they can just snap their fingers and be millionaires. They think that they can just start a business without putting much effort into it because that's how it appears on social media.
Yeah.
So it's really important to understand these folks had to overcome many obstacles. And if it doesn't scare you, it's probably basic. I love that. Your dreams should be a little scary because you want to push yourself. I don't know about in your world, Ron, we always had stretch goals at the bank. And it's almost like, to be honest, it's almost an unrealistic goal. And I have my whole take on why they had stretch goals. I think it was to make sure they didn't have to pay bonuses to the majority of folks, but they're like, let's have stretch goals. And then you reach these stretch goals and the next year they're stretched even further. And before you know it, they're completely unobtainable. But that said, in your personal life, you should have these stretch goals. And the stretch goal is designed to make you go, oh, wow, I don't think I can achieve that, right? But you work hard to achieve it. And you can if you do it right. So many folks also may have thoughts like, what if the grass isn't greener on the other side? I know a lot of business owners that had thought that when they left their 9 to 5 and became a business owner. And that's a risk you should be willing to take if that's what you want to do.
Hey, Kristin, I wanted to jump in. Your stretch goals reminded me, in the government, you have a strategic plan, and we had to develop this 5-year plan. And we called a meeting, God, I shouldn't throw my agency on the bus, but we called this leadership meeting. So all the division chiefs we're offsite, and we go through this whole thing. And I mean, we developed this 5-year strategic plan, and we took it seriously. We go in this plan. I promise you, we never mentioned that thing again once we left that meeting.
Oh my gosh.
So I believe in long-term planning. I really do.
Yeah.
But it's got to be a part of the fabric. It's got to have intermediate steps. But it was a great meeting, though. We had a great meeting. Oh, my
goodness. Yeah. And that's what you don't want to do, well, especially when you're going out on your own and doing your own thing, right? Like that's like checking boxes, which there's a lot of that with the government, right? But so it's just wild. So you may have, the whole grass isn't greener on the other side. What if I'm less happy than before? What if I can't go back? Right. I mean, that's a legitimate concern that some folks have, but what if you seize the moment and everything goes amazing because you have planned and you've put the necessary work into it? Like there's so much that can go your way if you do the work.
No, that's true. And I mentioned this before, but I want to add something to it. Enjoy the journey. And even if you can't enjoy it, appreciate it. And the journey is your testimony. That is your story. How many times have you looked back and go, and sometimes even laugh at something at the time, had you fretful and nervous and upset, and later you look back and laugh about it. So
oh my gosh,
it is hard to do this in the middle of the storm. I get it, but you got to look through that storm and see that sun in the horizon and remind yourself, I'm going to make it through this. This too shall pass.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't have to poison men. I saw, this is like one of the most insane ones to me, okay? So I'm seeing that there's a trend on TikTok and Instagram, mainly TikTok, and it's women acting like they're basically pretending to be poisoning like their husband's drink or just even random men's drinks. And all because of the way the election results came out. So it's you don't have to do that. You don't have to shave your head. You don't have to follow all of that. You can look for the silver lining because it's there.
Yeah, no kidding. Let's hit just a few more quick things. I believe we're getting people motivated here, Kristin. Or at least I know I'm getting motivated. So, that's what's important.
From your lips to God's ears.
That's right. We know that seizing a moment isn't always easy, but you may be right on the edge of a precipice, a breakthrough of something. And wouldn't it be terrible that one of these days when we're before God and we look and we were right at the brink of something great and we turned around and walked away? Now, Kristin and I do believe in realism. I mean, you do have to ask yourself, is this the right time? Am I ready? Because, we're not saying quit your job tomorrow and you don't have a plan in effect, but we are saying that sometimes you have to stretch the boundaries a little bit to do something great. And I have the 2 words I use in coaching, and it's what if, and then I just respond, so what? So, your brain is like, what if we don't make it? Well, so what? I made it through the last obstacle. I'll make it through another one.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. That sounds like something. I was talking to a friend recently who went through a really bad breakup, and they were telling me about all the things that the girlfriend, ex-girlfriend, is going to be. She has low self-esteem. She's going to be experiencing this. Guys are going to take advantage of her. And I said, not your problem. Right?
Yeah, that's right.
And he was like, oh, yeah, you're right. So if you can, there's a little bit of that, so what, right? Like, all right, you're going to figure it out. It's going to, life moves on. She's going to go off and learn, learn her lessons, and maybe some good ones, maybe some bad ones, but not your problem. So that's that. Like, so what? I like it,
Kristin,
Ron.
Everyone, don't have empathy. Just let that poor girl go out and suffer.
Well, she's the one who dumped him. So
No, that's right. You can't carry the world's, Kristin, you've said it before. We're not supposed to carry the world's burdens.
No way. So it's all about logic, and we have to protect ourselves. So I do think we need to do a little bit more of that. Not my problem. Right? Like
right.
I feel
That's right.
that sounds so bad. Some of it's like biblical, where like folks that are poor and need assistance like that, we are not to. I'm really challenging myself on this recently, mainly because my mom pointed it out. Like I gave a homeless man, I don't even know if he was really homeless, but he was wearing a MAGA hat and he was standing at the freeway asking for money, and I gave him 20 just because he was wearing the hat. But anyhow, God literally in the Bible, it's literally like, do not flush down or flush away the poor. Like we need to be focusing on those that are in need. And so it's been hard for me because generally I'm like, there's this spot when you get off the freeway where that man was standing, that they always ask for money there. But then there's literally always a sign across the street of a gas station hiring gas attendants, because in Oregon, they pump the gas for us. That one's really been tough for me over the past 15, 20 years. And I haven't had much compassion, but I've really been challenged recently to be more compassionate in that way. So when it's like not my problem, there's a little bit of that, but then we also need to remember that there are folks in need. So it's a tough, line to walk sometimes.
Kristin knows that I struggle with some of the conservative messaging. I don't believe people have cold hearts, but when you talk about deportation, which I'm all for, but you do have to remember there's human beings involved. And we get to the point where something is a talking point. And, Jesus would say to you, Kristin, what if he had been wearing a Joe Biden hat? Would you have still given him the 20? See, that's the difference.
No.
Well, at least you're honest. Forgive her, Lord. No, I do think sometimes we do get, I try not to get sucked into all the party rhetoric, and I try to think for myself. And I know that each person is an individual, and I'm supporting the law, but I'm saying we don't need to get so cold-hearted that we forget about everybody.
Right.
I don't think that's where we need to be. Okay, what do we need to do here to seize the moment, Kristin?
You need to keep your eyes peeled. Look for those opportunities. They are there. There are thousands of opportunities just waiting for you to discover them.
That's exactly right.
Grant
Cardone
everywhere.
says, "Who's got my money?"
Yeah.
The next one is prioritize your time and narrow your focus. I know people who are all over the place, and they start, stop, and they don't focus. You've got to prioritize your time and get focused on something if you want to seize the moment.
Right.
And then just because I'll do the next one because I mentioned it, is you harness that inner power. You can be powerful and you can make things happen. You just have to have the right attitude to do it. And you got to believe that it's going to happen.
Right.
One of the greatest shows I ever watched, I mentioned Grant Cardone, that's what made me think of it, was that it was called Billionaire something, and they would drop these billionaires off with no money, no identity. They had to take on a false identity, $100 cash, and they weren't told what city. They were given a phone, so they had none of their contacts. And these guys ended up making $1 million in 90 days because of the mindset. And it's the greatest show. It's on Discovery. People should watch it. It's called, I can't think. It's something billionaire.
Super memorable.
I know.
That's awesome.
Kristin, I was focused on the journey, not the show.
Not the end result.
Not the title.
Oh my gosh. Well, you know the famous author J.K. Is it Rowling or Rowling?
Rowling, yeah.
Rowling. Anything's possible if you've got enough nerve. And
right.
Wow.
Did you know that 12 publishers turned down Harry Potter? Did you know that?
Really? No, I didn't.
Oh, yeah. And she wouldn't give up.
Good for her.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
We need to also have the attitude, life is what you make of it. We're writing the book. We decide what stories go in that book.
Yeah, it's true. Us as individuals and everyone listening, we have the power to make choices, take risks, overcome setbacks, and say yes and no, of course, to opportunities and embrace all that life has and all that it can be. And gosh, those are Those are God-given rights.
Yep,
you need to focus on what's in front of you.
And when you choose to seize the moment, remember your strengths. We've talked about that. Know that you can grow. Have that growth mindset to take full advantage of the moments life gives you. You know, when I started in marketing, we've talked about it. I knew nothing and I just started building. I still feel like I don't know anything, but then when I look back, I could do a lot more than I did, you know, 2 years ago.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think about that with social media. I look back at my, like the production of everything I did like 4 years ago, and I'm like, wow, I've come a long way. So yeah, it's wild. The journey is everything. And, you know, everyone has something unique to offer the world. I mean, that's not just, I mean, we are all different for a reason. The word weird wouldn't even be in our vocabulary if it weren't for the fact that you're different. We're different. We're all a little weird, right? So when the world comes knocking at your door, answer and let your unique light shine through, and come up with an action plan. Think about the kind of life you'd like to lead. We're not talking about, you don't have to change your job, change your career. You can change little things or add something to your plate. If you feel like something's missing, maybe you wanted to get into art or pottery. Literally, it can be anything, but you want to make sure that you understand that you are in charge and you can get there.
That's exactly right. We've talked a lot about SMART goals: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-based. Set you a plan. Write it down. If you don't write it down, it probably will never happen. Set yourself some goals. And you need to strike while the iron's hot. Seize the moment. Take life by the horns. Make sure you're speaking those kind of words. Make sure you're thinking good thoughts. Replace bad thoughts with good thoughts. Ask yourself, is this a fixed mindset or is this an absolute growth mindset? Because that's what we have to adapt. And do not let another golden opportunity pass you by.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I love that because, you know, it's, how will you seize the moment, Ron? I'm curious.
Oh, I'm taking the bull by the horns. Kristin,
I mean, you really
this.
have. We have the event coming up on the 5th.
Yes, and that is in Summerville, South Carolina. We would love to meet you. Kristin and I are going to be together and probably at least do one episode, maybe a couple episodes of the podcast together, which we've not done that together. So that's going to be really cool. But yeah, the conference, I'm speaking in an event next week that the governor of North Carolina is going to be there. It's I'm the keynote for the North Carolina Department of Corrections, and all this stuff doesn't happen overnight. It's having a growth mindset. It's doing the things, seizing the moment, getting the word out there. There's a lot to it. Right. And so I am starting to reap some things, but it's been a lot of sowing, a lot of hard work to get there.
Yeah. I don't think enough people actually like pick that saying apart to realize what it really means.
No, I think you're right. I think you're right.
Yeah. Awesome.
Well, Kristin, this has been
a good
groovy.
Episode. Yeah. I won't use your tagline. Really throw you for a loop.
I started to do it real fast because I was afraid to You know what, Kristin? I just want to show you. I'm a growth mindset guy.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm going to let you say it this time. And I'm going to take your line.
That's a big move.
Only this time, though.
Sounds good.
Don't make it a habit.
All right, folks. Be the leader you were meant to be.
We'll see you next week.
The Dirty Side of Leadership podcast is brought to you by Forward Operations. If you'd like to book Ron or Kristin for speaking events, training, or executive coaching, visit forwardoperations.com. Be the leader you're meant to be.